Hey guys, it's Protendo, and I'm dreaming, right? Like, this is all fake? Because there is no way I just watched an E3 show where Nintendo revealed the first 2D Metroid in 19 years. There's just no way. Samus's arms must be so tired from carrying this entire E3 Direct on her shoulders. I mean, sure, the quick glimpse of Breath of the Wild 2 was awesome, and the new Mario Party looks like a lot of fun, but to me, this is the true highlight of this year's E3. Because not only does the game look phenomenal, like seriously, I've lost track of how many times I've rewatched the trailer and treehouse footage, but it also gives us a tiny shred of hope for how Nintendo might handle IPs in the future. Let me explain. Nintendo as a company is pretty famous for their excessive amount of dormant IPs. Like, it's essentially a joke, not only among Nintendo fans, but in the entire gaming community. As much as I love the Wii, Switch, and even Wii U eras of Nintendo, for the past decade or so, their software output has been pretty formulaic. Aside from a couple new IPs like Splatoon here and there, you pretty much know what handful of series are going to be getting new games as soon as a new system gets announced. You've got your big ones like 3D Mario, 2D Mario, Mario Kart, Zelda, Pokemon, Smash, and Animal Crossing, and then the B team of franchises like Kirby, Fire Emblem, Paper Mario, Donkey Kong, Mario Party, and more recently, Yoshi. I'm not trying to imply that these franchises have grown stale or aren't still beacons of creativity today, because a lot of them are. Breath of the Wild is literally industry-shaking, and Smash Ultimate is the biggest crossover in history. The impact of those titles can't be understated. But that doesn't detract from the fact that out of Nintendo's dozens of franchises, only a handful get regularly used, to the point where we can pretty much effectively predict which ones we'll end up seeing. Which is why it's so insane that Metroid Dread exists and is going to be in our hands this fall. For those who aren't aware, even though most probably are, Metroid Dread has a very complex history, dating all the way back to 2005 when the name first appeared in a Game Informer magazine, supposedly being a Metroid Fusion follow-up in development for the DS. This would later be backed up by sources like IGN, all claiming that there was merit to this rumor. A couple years later, in 2007, Metroid Prime 3 was released and included a secret code that said Metroid Project Dread is nearing completion, something that obviously led to more fueling of flames. Nintendo wouldn't officially acknowledge the game's existence until 2010, with series director Yoshio Sakamoto revealing that Metroid Dread was in fact in development but was cancelled. After that, there was essentially a decade of radio silence on the topic of Metroid Dread until 2 weeks ago, where it was fully announced in all of its glory. Something that I don't think anyone would have expected, because it's so uncharacteristic of Nintendo, is for them to release a video detailing the game's development history and all the problems and cancellations it had faced, but surprisingly, they did just that very shortly after Dread was revealed. In the video, Sakamoto explains that Metroid Dread had actually been started and cancelled a couple of times before they had finally given up on it. But after seeing how well Mercury Steam did with Samus Returns on the 3DS, Nintendo realized that they were the perfect team to help bring the long-awaited Metroid 5 to life on hardware that allowed them to fully realize all the ideas that weren't possible to execute a decade or decades prior. I'm gonna be honest, this is probably the most interesting development history I've ever seen for a game, filled with ups and downs, pickups and cancellations, teases and deconfirmations. If you know about any games with more captivating development stories than this, then please let me know in the comments, because I always love to hear about this kind of stuff. But Metroid Dread releasing isn't just insane because of its crazy history, but also because of Nintendo's dedication to this title and to this franchise. Metroid has never been one of Nintendo's top series in terms of sales. The franchise usually sells about 1 or 2 million copies per game, which, across its lifespan, has totaled 18 million sales. Just for a little perspective, Animal Crossing New Horizons is set to double that later this year. Metroid is hardly a juggernaut in regards to moving massive amounts of software, but despite that, it's one of Nintendo's most iconic series, a franchise that people immediately think of when Nintendo comes to mind. The last 2D Metroid game to come out that isn't a remake was of course Metroid Fusion back in 2002, which was hardly an enormous success, garnering 1.6 million sales. So after everything, after the series' so-so sales, after its struggle to stay relevant in the past decade, to see Nintendo come out with the game people have been wanting and speculating about for the past 2 decades is incredible. It feels like Nintendo's starting to realize the insane power that the Switch holds, and how its success is able to make franchises reach levels of popularity that otherwise didn't seem possible. Splatoon, a series that was created on a dying console 5 years ago, 12 million. Sequel on the way. Fire Emblem, a series that was threatening to go under 9 years ago, 3 million. Luigi's Mansion 3, 10 million. Super Mario Party, 15 million. Nintendo's becoming aware of the fact that the Switch's success shouldn't just be used to make their big franchises like Mario, Zelda, and Animal Crossing even bigger, but to help their lesser selling franchises see success that they've never seen before, shoving them into relevancy. And if they can do this with 2D Metroid, a series that's laid dormant for 2 decades, then who's to say what could come next? What's stopping Nintendo from releasing a new Kid Icarus, or a new Punch-Out, or heck, a new F-Zero? Mother remakes, Golden Sun, Balloon Fight, Excitebike. The list of franchises Nintendo could bring back is nearly endless, and this, the Switch era, is the time to do it in. An era where series that only sold moderately in the past can become insane financial successes. I mean, they revealed Advance Wars remakes in the exact same presentation. That's gotta mean something, right? It's definitely possible that I'm getting ahead of myself here, but for the longest time, Metroid Dread was one of the biggest never gonna happens in Nintendo history, only really being topped by Mother 3 in terms of relative impossibility. So to see it now on the Switch, looking better than we ever expected it to, catching the attention of new fans and reaching weekly bestseller lists, it's all incredibly surreal and has me excited to see what other series might get a similar fate if Nintendo plays their cards right. We at least have 3 years left of the Switch, so if Nintendo really wants to reintroduce these old franchises to what will soon be a 100 million user install base, this is the time to do it. And it's starting to feel like they know that. But anyways guys, that's about it for this video. As always, I'd love to hear what you think. Are you excited to get your hands on Metroid Dread? And what other Nintendo franchises would you like to see make their return? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all later. Protendo out.